Good evening and welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix daily price change predictions video. My name is FPL Nacho and this is the series where we discuss potential FPL price changes to help you build that essential team value. Now, off the back of that Romelu Lukaku injury over in the Champions League a few days ago, it has made the market go crazy and there are plenty of potential FPL price changes. So in this video, we're going to be discussing those potential Romelu Lukaku replacements and some differentials that you might want to consider in your teams ahead of game week 9. And as always, guys, all of this information is taken from fantasyfootballfix.com, the leading FPL platform. So if you want to win your mini leagues or improve that rank, be sure to head over to fantasyfootballfix.com, link in the bio. So without further ado, let's have a look at tonight's potential FPL price changes. Okay guys, so there's only one place to start and that is going to be potential Romelu Lukaku replacements. Now, it is worth noting that Romelu Lukaku hasn't officially been ruled out at game week 9, but the assumptions are that he is going to be out for a length of time, which is going to be including game week 9. And right now, as you can see on the graphics, guys, that Lukaku is currently the most sold player by a distance. Clearly, managers have given up faith in him due to the injury ahead of game week 9, and rightly so with the potential ankle injury. So, managers right now are looking at premium options as alternatives, and right now with 65% of the transfer combinations, managers are looking to move from Lukaku to Jamie Vardy, which is currently the most popular transfer in the market right now as we speak, and rightly so, being that Vardy is currently the leading FPL forward in the league off the back, of course, that goal against Man United. And what I've decided to do here is head over to the player heat map section in Fantasy Football Fix to compare Jamie Vardy up against Harry Kane, who is arguably the other premium option available. Now, of course, Cristiano Ronaldo is a brilliant option as well. However, with the upcoming fixtures for Man United, I do think it's clear that both Jamie Vardy and Harry Kane are better FPL assets and replacements for Romelu Lukaku. So, as we see here, guys, I have the statistics up for both players, and we're going to be coming down into the touch heat maps for both players. And clearly, Harry Kane with 1 goal so far this season, you would expect Jamie Vardy to have a better heat map than him. And as we can see here, Harry Kane, as we've expected him to be over the years in Spurs, operating much more deeper than Jamie Vardy, with his touches in the box much less than Jamie Vardy's. We can see Jamie Vardy's touch map operating very much in that left-handed side of the penalty box. Harry Kane much more on the right-hand side, but not where you want to see the red marks on that map, being predominantly in the middle third of the pitch. Again, being that creative force in the Spurs side, not necessarily being the one on the end of things in the box. Maybe highlighting why he's only got 1 goal so far this season. But Jamie Vardy, as we can imagine, has had most of his touches within the box, being that goal poacher that we have come to expect over the recent years. And when we come down into the statistics so far, we can see that Jamie Vardy is winning so far on shots 23 in comparison to Harry Kane's 17. And attempted assists as well, Jamie Vardy winning that one with 9 in comparison to Harry Kane's 7, which is quite an interesting stat as we have associated Harry Kane with being the creative force in that Spurs side. And for Jamie Vardy to be winning that department as well is quite interesting reading. But what I want to come down to, guys, here is the underlying stats for both players to see whether Jamie Vardy is considerably exceeding Harry Kane or whether it is closer than we think. And as we mentioned, 7 goals to Harry Kane's 1 is a real gulf in class right now, and very difficult to justify paying the additional money for Harry Kane when someone like Jamie Vardy has so many more goals in a Leicester side, which you could argue is as good as this Spurs team. In the expected goals department, Jamie Vardy still leading the way with 3.72 in comparison to Harry Kane's 2.03. Now, again, it is clear that Harry Kane should, in underlying stats world, have had more goals than he has right now, but still, Jamie Vardy is leading the way in that department. And it's worth mentioning as well, both players being on set pieces. Of course, this can skew the data, but the argument is for both players there being penalty takers in their retrospective teams. Shots department as well, Jamie Vardy leading the way with 23 to Harry Kane's 17. So right now it is very clear that Jamie Vardy is leading the way in most areas, and in particular shots in the box. Again, a metric that I really do like to look at because of the quality of chances that they're getting. Naturally, shots in the box is going to mean that they're getting a higher percentage of their shots being potential goals. Otherwise, 30-yard long ranges, I want to see my players shooting in the box rather than 30 yards out. And with 21 shots in the box in comparison to Harry Kane's 8, that is a real great stat to see as potential Jamie Vardy owners. And what I want to look at here, guys, also is the projected points for the next 5 league matches, as this is something that Fantasy Football fixtures brilliantly. And currently, over the next 5 league matches, we have Jamie Vardy leading the way on 26.8 points. Second place being Ronaldo on 25.9 and Harry Kane on 24.8. So the underlying stats are suggesting that Jamie Vardy is the better pick. The projected points are suggesting that Jamie Vardy is the better pick. And I really think that he is the way to go right now if we're looking for a Romelu Lukaku replacement. And it's worth mentioning as well, with Lukaku's price point around 11.7 million, going up into Harry Kane is going to require you having funds in the bank, which some managers don't have. The attraction of Jamie Vardy is that you can go down into Jamie Vardy and have funds available to upgrade other assets in your team. And one of those assets that I think down the line might be a better Spurs alternative is going to be Son of Spurs. And I really think going down to Jamie Vardy, having the funds available to upgrade one of your midfielders to Son in the coming game weeks is probably the most viable strategy going forward. So guys, to conclude, I would go for Jamie Vardy as an alternative to Lukaku, but with Harry Kane's ownership around 6%, if you want a differential early ahead of those game week 12 fixtures for Kane, then he could be an excellent alternative. Okay guys, as we mentioned, moving Lukaku over to the likes of Jamie Vardy or Harry Kane is a very simple sideways move. Again, with Harry Kane, a little bit of cash in the bank is required, but as an FPL manager, you can confidently still have that premium slot in your team going forward over the coming game weeks. But something that I do want to point out, and something that is an interesting debate, is going to be discussing the 4th most transferred in player ahead of the game week 9, and that is going to be Brentford's Toney. Now, hear me out, guys. Moving down from Lukaku into a 6.4 million option in Toney seems like a clear waste of your money. And what are you going to be doing with the extra funds available in your team? Well, as we mentioned, guys, Toney is predicted to score 21.1 points over the next 5 league matches. And when we compare that to the likes of Harry Kane on 24.8, I really don't think that that is a big enough gulf in points to justify paying the additional 6 million or less to go into the likes of Harry Kane. And the reason I do love Ivan Toney going forward over the coming game weeks is because dropping down from Lukaku into Toney gives you so much money in the bank, which you can invest into one of your midfielders up into Spurs' Son. Now, Son versus Harry Kane is a big debate in the FPL community, and I really do think that if you can sacrifice that premium spot in your team, and I know it's not going to be for everybody, upgrading one of your mid-price midfielders, maybe the likes of Saka, who's currently injured, up into a Son and having a premium double up of Salah and Son over the coming game weeks with Toney, as we mentioned with the predicted points, could be a brilliant alternative going forward. And while Toney might not become a differential over the coming game weeks, having the combination of Toney and Son against the likes of Vardy or Kane could prove to be a differential in itself. So while it might not be for everybody, this is definitely an alternative way of looking at selling Lukaku down into a budget player like Toney and then upgrading a midfielder into Son. So definitely food for thought as a Lukaku owner. Okay guys, as I mentioned, Lukaku potentially falling in price tonight, Vardy potentially rising in price tonight, and of course Heung-min Son potentially rising in price tonight. So I've decided to look a little bit off ball and look at the Chelsea midfielders ahead of game week 9. And the reason being is because of the influx of transfers for a number of these assets. In particular, Havertz and Hudson-Odoi, who have seen themselves get plenty of transfers in the last 24 hours off the back of the injuries to both Romelu Lukaku and Timo Werner. And with their home fixture against Norwich looking like a brilliant option to bring in these sorts of players who are excellent differentials in the FPL world. And of course, targeting a team like Norwich at home is a brilliant way of gaining a little bit of a rank boost over the coming game weeks. And if you can target the right one, then you could really see a great upside in your coming game weeks. But is any of these options available even worth targeting? Well, I've decided to also throw in Mason Mount into the equation over on the player comparison matrix, as he is definitely an asset that I think when he does get game time, it's one of the best assets available in this Chelsea team, and very different to the other two, potentially looking at a price 4 who has been teetering around that 100% progress bar to 7.3 million, but not predicted to fall in price tonight. So we look at the players here in comparison. We can see that Mason Mount leads away for minutes with 357 in comparison to Havertz is 320. and Hudson-Odoi on his lowly 147 minutes. So when we come down here, I really want to look at the underlying stats. Obviously, Havertz the only one with a goal so far this season. Obviously, that brilliant header against Liverpool. But when we come into a bit more of the underlying stats here, we can see that touches in the opposition box, Mason Mount leads the way on 20 in comparison to Havertz is 17. Again, disappointing stats for Hudson-Odoi with 6. FPL assists, Mount leads the way there with 2. Both other players have none to their name. And shots, again, Mason Mount and Havertz lead the way with 10 shots per piece in comparison to Hudson-Odoi's 2 there. So again, Hudson-Odoi right now is a bit of a player that is gaining a bit of traction in the FPL world, as he might potentially play as a right wing back or as a right winger. But right now, guys, looking at the underlying stats and the minutes that he's had so far this season, I think we can rule him out as a potential Chelsea option going forward. Again, when we bring these potential assets in, we need to look at the longer term and not necessarily a one game week punt. And looking at the minutes that Hudson-Odoi's had, he really isn't an option going forward. So I'm going to rule out Hudson-Odoi as an option in the coming game week. So it really is a case of, if you're looking for a differential Chelsea option, and as we mentioned, you're looking for a midfield option, Havertz and Mason Mount are probably the 2 that I definitely would look at as options. Now, it's worth noting that 8.1 million, Havertz is slightly more expensive than Mason Mount. And looking at the underlying stats, I don't necessarily think he justifies that price point necessarily. Now, of course, with the injury to Romelu Lukaku and Timo Werner, we are expecting Havertz to play as that false 9 in the Chelsea side. Something that he did do a lot at the back end of last season under Tuchel, to great success in that period under Tuchel. And if he does operate in that position with a long-term injury to the likes of Lukaku and Werner, he could be a brilliant differential going forward. But a lot of question marks right now about Kai Havertz, whether he is going to be a long-term option with this Lukaku injury. And I think at 7.4 million, not enough talk is being mentioned about Mason Mount going forward. And I really do think on the day he is a brilliant option in this Tuchel side and someone he does really favour. We mentioned it before about his link-up play with other players in the team connecting that midfield and attack. So while Havertz is going to get the plaudits right now, and a lot of managers are going to be making that move because of that false 9 position, I think a slight move to Mason Mount this game week could be a brilliant option in those FPL teams. So definitely one to look out for. Okay guys, that is going to wrap up today's FPL price changes video. I really hope that has provided some value, and for those Lukaku owners right now, hopefully providing a little bit of clarity on what to do going forward ahead of the Friday deadline. Don't miss that Friday deadline. And as always guys, FPL price changes aren't an exact science and they can alter, so be sure to head over to fantasyfootballfix.com over on our price predictor to monitor these prices carefully, and also download the free app which provides you with push notifications so you don't miss a single price change. And as always guys, I want to say a massive shout out for tuning into this video. If you did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like button, smash that subscribe button, and with daily videos dropping, you don't want to be missing a thing, so hit that notification bell, and we will see you same time tomorrow. Cheers.